It's my absolute pleasure to welcome back to the UltraRunning Magazine podcast, Mr. Ryan Montgomery, coming to us from his new digs in Mill Valley, California, just north of San Francisco. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Just got off the ferry, the Larkspur ferry from downtown San Francisco, and back in my little apartment here in Mill Valley. So we're doing great. And it's sunny outside.
What a beautiful sight that must have been. Good weather today. Solid.
Yeah, there's actual sunshine, no fog. So take the wins.
Yep. Our friend Carl, the fog.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a problem today. Well, you, my friend, you are on the precipice of going back to Western States for your third time. You punched your ticket at the Canyons 100K back in April with an outstanding performance. Not to be outdone, but you had someone on your heels vying for that golden ticket spot. So
I'm sure there was lots of people that wanted that golden ticket.
Oh my gosh, more than anything. So I want to kind of start there as we get to as we get going. But before we do, for those who aren't familiar with you, answer this question: who is Ryan Montgomery?
Ryan Montgomery is multiple things. There's a lot of dynamics and parts of Ryan, but I would say more simply is I think I am someone who is just really passionate about life, and I'm really passionate about discovering who I am as a person. And what I mean by that in terms of discovery is one big envelope of that is my running person. So what can I accomplish? Who am I through the avenue of running? And I think that's why ultra running is amazing, because there's no other sport that allows you to be in your head with all your demons and inadequacies that surface in an ultra marathon and having to problem solve. And I love, being able to be in that space and learn and discover about myself. And then I say secondly is, as a outwardly queer person, it's something that's important to me is to learn who I am, what are my interests, what do I like and dislike. And I think that's why I love the identity of queers, because it means, anything outside of binary. It means anything outside of what's, quote unquote normal or socially, standard. And so I'm just excited to learn more about myself as I live life. So I would say those are the two biggest parts of who Ryan is.
I like it. And how does Ryan the athlete sort of unfold here in terms of your career? Where are some highlights from your career as people get to know you?
Yeah, in a running sense, I approached ultra running really young. So I got into the sport when I was in high school, actually. I've talked about this on some other podcasts, but got invited to this running expedition when I was 16, got to meet all these ultra runners. So early on, I was like, I want to do ultra running. This is what I want to experience in life. And ran my first ultra when I was, I want to say 22, 21. The Canyons, or Antelope Canyons 50 miler in Page, Arizona. And since then, I've ran nearly 50 official ultra marathons, 17 of them being 100 milers. And I was not competitive at first. When I first started, I was, very middle of the pack, not a competitive runner. But as I've developed all that context and all those experiences, I've wanted to fine tune and master, my craft per se. And so I would say 2019 was a big catalyst year where I had a great 100-mile performance running sub 13 hours that December. Hired a coach, realized at that race that actually I probably have something here in terms of, making a career out of it and being on the professional side of it. So since then, I've just been chasing crazy races all over the world. And I would say I love the longer distances. I think they suit me better just because I think there's more variables to navigate in a 100-mile plus race.
You're like a chameleon to me, and that you're very kind. You're gentle and you're competitive, but you're also a fucking beast on the trail. You know, it's like
Oh,
it's just part of who you are. It's just one of the many things about you, which I just find so endearing, is just that you can just freaking throw down. Um,
oh,
and you threw down at the Canyons 100K, as I said before. And I kind of want to talk to you about that because at that point you did not have an entry into Western States. With just a few months left to go, the sands of time are just running out. So what was your mindset going into that day? And then kind of how did that day unfold for you? It sounds like, you got down to business when you got into Michigan Bluff.
yeah. So because I didn't have an entry into Western States for this year, I actually attempted to get my ticket at Tarawera in February in New Zealand. That did not work out for me, although it was a fun and great race. But I would say I felt so unsatisfied from the 2024 Western States, where I was the fittest in my life. I decided to run this race very aggressively, but I did not know it at the time, but I had COVID and my COVID symptoms fully manifested in the middle of Western States. So it ended up being a disaster day for me, but I still finished.
Yeah.
And I think walking away from that, I was so unsatisfied because I didn't get to see the best of myself.
Yeah.
And I think for me in ultra running, that's my whole motivation is I want to extract the best Ryan and the best athlete, and I want to see what I'm capable of. And so for me going into Canyons this year, I was like, I have to get my ticket. Like there's no, I mean, there's other options obviously, but I need to be in the headspace of I need to be all in. I need to go to the well. I need to really execute and lay it all out there. And so, yeah, when I got to Michigan Bluff, which is around like mile 24 of that race, I just really committed and believed in myself that I can get that ticket despite being in like 10th place at that time, I think. And just like picked people off. And I think that was just like really fun for me to realize how much my self-belief and executing according to plan kind of came to fruition. So that was like a really fun experience, and I'm keeping that momentum going into states.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of tap into that, your mindset and that well of energy that you're drawing from as you are, putting it down from Michigan Bluff, and you are, you're rabbit hunting at this point. You are just picking off runners. So, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I think it's funny. You mentioned like Ryan, you're such a badass competitor. You throw down and like, yes, objectively, I am a competitive athlete, but I would say for me, being in the ecosystem of like high end performance racing is still like a new thing for me. So I have always approached the sport as I'm going out for a long day and I'm having fun. And so finding this performance element, I would say is still new for me in the past couple of years. And I had this realization that there's still a lot of work to be done on the mental side of racing for me to push myself in like these new arenas of performance. Because when I was at Tarawera, I objectively had a great day. I ran hard, but there are moments that I think I didn't believe in myself, and I let someone pass me, and I didn't respond, and I reflected on that a lot, and I was like, how come I didn't respond? How come I didn't believe in myself to actually, go to that extra gear? And so the past couple months I've had this leadership coach who turned into this sports performance coach. She's amazing. And we've been talking about like, what does it look like to fully commit? What does it look like to respond to the field? And I think that's kind of where the sport is now, is you really have to respond to your racers. You can't really run your own race if you want to have this high end performance in many ways. And so this is something new for me. And I think that's what's exciting about canyons for me is I am continuing to evolve and experiment to see what this looks like to push the envelope. And so that's what I did at canyons, is that I said, okay, Ryan, you kind of chilled in the canyon section to preserve your legs. Now is the time to fully commit and send it on Cal Street and all the way through the finish, and really believe in yourself that you can do that. And I think, yeah, that was me putting like that commitment to myself of like fully committing and putting into action and seeing the results of it. And so, yeah, I want more opportunities where I can do that. And I think states will be a great place for me to do that.
Oh, the connection between the mind and body is a tricky thing, and that's so cool to just hear someone that is so experienced as you are. You've run high level races around the world, but you're still tapping into what makes you tick. So yeah. So speaking of states, you're returning to states, third time. Last year, COVID, sub 19 hours, still a hell of a finish. Having COVID, holy smokes, with full blown symptoms, all that stuff. And then your first time running it, sub 16, if I got that right. I was there that day, a staggering performance. It was mind blowing. It was such a great day for so many folks, and you were part of that mix. So you punched your ticket, man. Great, I'm in Western States. Holy shit, I'm in Western States. So now you got to get prepared. So what's your approach this time around?
To be honest, the approach isn't really much different than what I did last year. Um, I think last year I was one of the most fit I probably had ever been for a race. And so this year looks very similar to that. And I would argue maybe even a little bit more volume.
Mm.
But I would say the biggest difference is that I have so much more self belief in myself. And I have so much more clarity of mind that I can have the best day out there if I want it. And I think that's the key thing, is that if I want it, and that's something I've been like really trying to marinate in my head, as I go on my training runs, is that who says that like you can't win Western States? Who says that you can't podium at Western States? Like, if you want it, it really is possible. And I think Rod is a good example of that last year, like who had just like the performance of his life. And, when I think about the rhetoric of David Roach, like he really believes that he can do that and have the performance of his day. And I think that's just like something I'm really changing in my preparation this year, is like I really believe that I not only deserve to have the most amazing day out there, but I can, if I really believe that. So that's just something I'm trying to reiterate and to confirm to myself on a daily basis.
Man, preach. You are just giving us all the goods, and we could hopefully incorporate it into our own lifestyle, whatever it is that we're trying to any objectives we're trying to achieve in our lives, whether it's athletically or professionally, personally. There's so much goodness here. So thank you so much for opening up and sharing this with us.
Yeah, of course.
Western States, it humbles even the best of the best, right? So is there a part of the course that you're pretty amped for? And is there a part of the course that keeps you up at night?
I think my strength when it comes to the course is the second half. I love a runnable flowy trail. Like I can just grind it out and like find an effort level and just keep it there. And so I think the sections after the river, Cal Street, like those sections really are aligned to my strengths, at least. I've ran the canyons like up to Devil's Thumb, down Devil's Thumb, to Duncan Canyon, and like back up to Michigan Bluff multiple times, and it never gets easier. So I would say the canyons is like probably my least favorite, as much as it is beautiful. But at least the last 2 years, whenever I get to Michigan Bluff, I just feel so zapped, because not only did you just climb up Michigan Bluff, that climb, which is like an 1,800-foot climb, but you do it in the heat. And so I always like feel zapped after that. But I just need to get through that, then we're good.
Yeah, I hear you. That section, it keeps me up too. Like my running coach has that on the calendar. I'm like, I don't know. Can I just run rope this weekend instead? Um,
Yeah.
just having to climb up to Devil's Thumb, then down, just blasting your quads, and then back up again to
Mhm.
Michigan is just brutal, brutal. And you said, and the heat too, which is oh so fun in Western
Yeah,
states.
and it's very exposed that last climb up to Michigan. So not that, we're not all prepared for it in the elite field, but it never gets easier, I feel like.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Is there anyone you're excited seeing toe the line this year?
Hmm. I've never ran a race with Killian. So I don't think we've even had a conversation before. So I hope I get the chance to talk to him, which would be great. Um, Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of the top 10 contenders are people whom I have a personal relationship with. And I always feel like whenever I get to race them, it feels like we get to like catch up and like have, a little family reunion of our sport. So I'm just excited to see everyone. So honestly.
Yeah, that's that expo too. That Friday is such a homecoming for
Hmm.
folks. It's just a really wonderful thing. If you have not been to the start and that Friday, if you can make it out to Tahoe, Olympic Valley, please do. It's pretty special.
Yeah, and usually that first climb up to the escarpment, it's pretty social, I would say, chatting with like some of our competitors, but I would say it definitely becomes more serious once we crest the escarpment,
Mhm,
and then
mhm.
it's a little bit more focus time, I would say.
So coming off that, your golden ticket run um,
Hmm.
at Canyons, you did the Western States training weekend. It's a 3-day weekend of
Hmm.
running on the course. How was that for you?
It was good. So my coach is Jason Coop, and I definitely skews toward the volume. And so I feel like that weekend was great for me to just put in a lot of volume. I actually added on mileage day one and day two. Day one ended up being like a 47-mile day. Um, so while that's great for fitness, I would say also just having those days out there on the canyon or in the Western States course, it's just building confidence. It's building familiarity with the course. It's, just getting yourself, envisioning yourself on race day there. And as much as I've already ran that course, I just love being out there too. It's just nice to get out there. So, if anything, I felt like it was just a confidence booster.
As you approach a 100 miler or any long distance, do you come at it with the mindset of how to like break it up so that how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's just seems so impossible sometimes, especially running at a high level. So do you break up a run like that?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that in a general sense,
Yeah.
but I do break races up by the race itself that's unique to the race.
Yeah.
So, if anyone's familiar with my running background, I've ran Javelina a couple times. I love that race. And that race, I feel like you become so fried because it's so hot and you're really just like in this consistent grind effort for the entire time. I break up that race by like aid station to aid station because I'm looking forward to the opportunity to dump ice and water on me. And so for that race, that's how I approach it. I would say a Western States, for example, I kind of break it up in like chunks of like the high country is a chunk, the canyon section is a chunk, and then I would say like the last 50K is like a chunk. And so I kind of break it up in a geographical topography sense. If that does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I think it depends on the race.
Yeah. And in terms of like how does the rest of your training block look like between now and race day? We're just a few weeks out.
Yeah, so we're about a little over 2 weeks. It's going to be I've done all of my really extreme long training runs. So I would say the next couple weeks is really just maintain and a slow taper. while still doing some consistent, steady state tempo efforts a couple times a week. I actually did sign up for the Ascent at Broken Arrow next week. So I'm running the VK. I don't know why, but it just sounded really fun. And seeing Jim do it last year, I like got motivation to also want to do it
Yeah.
because number one, vibes, awesome vibes.
Totally.
Two,
Yes.
it's not gonna like cause any harm because it's like such a short race. And then two or three, you can win prize money. So I was like, why not do that? And
Those
plus
are good reasons.
I get to be in like beautiful Tahoe. So
Oh gosh, I did the 18K last year, and oh my gosh, you should see my before and after photos. It was quite the shock to the system, but God bless you. Best of luck at the VK. Oh my goodness, not for the faint of heart. Not for the faint of
yeah.
heart. Yeah, I did the what is it? The Stairway to Heaven.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that ladder up to the top of the peak. Yeah, there was a lot of swearing involved with that.
When you got onto the snow
Yes,
stairs, like
yes.
up there, yeah.
But I couldn't tell what I liked more, either the shot of cold pickle juice or the shot of Jack Daniels. I think both.
Yeah, what about combined?
No,
That's kind of a
no,
no.
no, no, no. But I'm waiting for like the pickle juice, the core to come out. Ugh.
Yeah, that's fair.
Pickle everything.
But
Um,
yeah, anyways, that's kind of like my highlight before states. And then just hanging out and also working. I have an internship this summer. I'm an MBA intern in the city. But I'm gonna try to work remote that week between Broken Arrow and States so I can stay up in Tahoe. But yeah, I'm also just working too. So
so let's talk about that a little bit because you recently moved to Mill Valley for the summer. But I know that you were a resident in Utah and something else I think on the East Coast was going on. How does that impact your life, and how do you balance that all of trying to maintain as an elite athlete as you are?
yeah, so for context, last summer I rented out my house in Utah and moved to Hanover, New Hampshire, which is where Dartmouth College is. And I'm getting my MBA at the Tuck School of Business there at Dartmouth. And so, yeah, I literally like just got a U-Haul and like moved my life to New Hampshire without really knowing anything about that place other than, some trail runners live there and the White Mountains are nearby. And decided to pursue full-time MBA while still pursuing my running career. It's also why I chose that school is because it's in like a very outdoorsy, lots of trail access location in terms of programs. But I had this thought in my head that by quitting my day job and being a full-time student, MBA student, and pursuing my running would actually be a huge unlock for my running. I thought I would have all this time. I was like, oh, I have classes in the morning. Perfect. I have like the full afternoon to run. It cannot have been more opposite than that. I think I just had this fallacy in my head that I was going to have all this time. But for anyone who's done a full-time MBA program, it is extremely time demanding, not only from the academics side, but also from the social side of the program. So it has been difficult to navigate that while pursuing, 15, 18-hour training weeks, to say the least. But I've been able to do it. And I think my approach to this was that running, if you want to maximize running performance, it really does have to be priority number one and or priority number two in your life. And that doesn't mean that it needs to be your obsession, but I think it needs to be a guiding principle in how you organize and plan your day. So like for me in business school, I plan my day of when I'm going to do my workout. And it's a non-negotiable, meaning that if I'm maxed out socially and with school, and I only have time for a run, and it means that I can't go to this party, I'm going to do my run and I'm not going to go to that party.
Mhm.
So that's been like a guiding principle in my life that running's non-negotiable. It's filter number one in terms of organization of my calendar. And if I have extra time, awesome. But if not, then that's the trade-off I'm willing to make. So it's pretty it's not for everyone. It means that I've had to sacrifice a lot of things. I've missed out on a lot of things as part of my MBA program, but would I do anything different? Would I do it differently? No, because running is so important to me. I also approach it as my job, but it's also the most important part of who I am as a person,
Mhm.
as we talked about. So I'm not willing to make those trade offs, or I am willing to make those trade offs. I mean, so yeah, I don't know how other people do it. I mean, imagine if you have a family with kids, like priority number one, family, priority number two, maybe it's running, and then three is your job. And so that's how you prioritize your days. But yeah, it's a lot of work of prioritization
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you in a relationship?
Oh, do I have time for a
That's why I'm
relationship?
asking.
I am available. Yes. Could the relationship become priority? Can get up there. It can, but most people that I meet do not meet the threshold of like meeting the top priority. So,
Right, right,
but I'm
right.
open to it.
Right, right. Yeah, you come with a major disclaimer. By the
Yeah.
way, this is my crazy ass life right now. Um, so I want to kind of dive into kind of some personal aspects of your life, if that's okay. You are um, a gay elite ultra runner in the sports. So what's that visibility meant to you, and what has the community's response been like to you over the years?
For me, as someone who hasn't been able to be my authentic self every day growing up, in how I was raised, in the environments I was in, to be able to just embrace who I am and to be that authentic self and to be unapologetically who I am is huge, because I haven't always had that in my life. What does that mean? I think in ultra running as a professional athlete, I think it means a couple things. One is I love I love being an advocate for things that I think are important to me. And I think queer inclusion is something important to me. And running, especially someone who's running like a visible race like Western states and in general, it gives me an opportunity to have that conversation. So that feels amazing. But I would say probably most importantly is that there are so many queer people in trail running. I know, maybe some of your listeners might not know that, because if you're not in the queer or gay communities, you might not be aware of that. But there is a massive community of queer identifying people in trail running and adjacently in the outdoor sports arena. And so being able to be an advocate, to talk about those issues, to be a community organizer for this community who wants this type of community building, it means a lot, because I cannot tell you how many times on Instagram, I'm really bad at messages, by the way, but when I do look at my messages, regularly, weekly, daily, I'm getting messages from people who say, "Thank you for being who you are. I love following you. You inspire me to do X, Y, and Z. You've given me purpose to go pursue, trail running, to find belonging." Like, these narratives consistently happen. And so for me, as an athlete who's openly gay, queer, it means a lot for those people who want to follow me, who are inspired by that. And I take that really seriously. Um, I'm not always the best in talking about issues, because, as we talked about, I have like a billion things going on in my life. But when I do talk about them, I treat them seriously. And I think it's one of the wonderful gifts that I can give to our sport and our community. So,
That is a wonderful gift. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
yeah, of course.
Looking ahead to the future, um, outside Western states, what's next on the horizon? I know you have a laundry list. Your calendar has been quite impressive this year. So I know it's hard to think about what's coming up on the horizon, anything after states, but because states is so the focal point. But what is coming up? I think Run Rabbit Run is on the calendar. Um,
Yeah. So Western States A race for sure. I think another A race for me is Run Rabbit Run 100 in Steamboat in September. So I'm really excited about that race. I think it's a course that suits me well. Um, I ran Leadville last year, and so realized that I do fine at elevation. So running Colorado should be great. But I'm just excited to be in like a very competitive mountain race, like Run Rabbit. And also, I think what's enticing too is that like the prize money is like also great because I don't, the only work I'm doing right now is running. And, I'm also a full-time student. So I'm like, also, it sounds great to pay tuition, from running. But I have some other races sprinkled throughout. So I'm running Grand Raid, the 80K, which is in the Pyrenees. I think it's part of the Grand Canary Trail Major like series. So I'm running that in August. So I'm just gonna go out to Europe after my internship this summer, and then I'm also signed up for Ultra Trail Cape Town, which my one of my best friends, Tina Muir, is running it. So we'll probably just run it together. So I won't run it competitively, but excited to go to Cape Town and go to South Africa at the end of the year.
Have you been there
Oh,
before?
I'm also signed up for a New York City Marathon. So
Have you been to Cape Town before?
I haven't, but I have a feeling that South Africa and particular Cape Town will be a highlight for me.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I've been there before, and it's is that a zebra? That's a zebra in the wild. Okay, okay, got
Yeah,
super cool.
it's great. Also kind of on a joke is one of my good friends, Michael, he went to Cape Town for Ultra Trail Cape Town many years ago, got on a dating app, went on a date. Now they're married. So I'm
Yeah,
like envisioning that like who knows, maybe I'll find my South African husband um during Ultra Trail Cape Town. So I'm manifesting it.
manifest it. It happens all the time, all the
Yeah.
time. If I'm going to ask some rando questions, as
Hmm.
we kind of wind things down here. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. If you could offer one message to the younger version of yourself, just starting in ultra running, what would that be?
I would say, and it's the advice that I give to the athletes whom I coach, and it's that ultra running should be fun and it should be exploratory. Um, I kind of think about ultra running as like this explore and exploit kind of like paradigm. And when you're first starting out, you should just be exploring, like learn about yourself, throw yourself into a race that seems intimidating, learn from it, fall down, like you're going to make mistakes. And I think that's part of like what's so exciting when you're getting into this sport is like learning about all the crazy things about the equipment, the nutrition. I'm like so dialed in my nutrition now, but like back in the day, I would be eating like freaking protein bars like out in my like races. Like I've just come a long way. And the only way I was able to do that is just by exploring and trying new things and like having fun in the process. So I think if I could give myself that advice, it's just like don't take it so seriously, like have fun, make mistakes, and then you can like fine tune and or exploit later on. But we have a lifetime of exploitation, but we need to like explore first. So
That was really inspiring. I'm getting kind of jittery right now because I want to go, okay, I want to go find a race. I want to go do something new, do something crazy.
yeah, and like try new, pack. Like if you've always been curious about handhelds, like sign up for 50K and do a handheld, see if it works. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you don't. I just think we don't explore enough and experiment. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love it. Love it. I guess my final question for you is what do you hope your legacy in ultra running will be on the trail and beyond it?
I really want this sport to not feel inaccessible. And I think it is for so many different reasons. whether they're physical, financial, social, you know? And for me, if I've been able to make it somewhat easier for someone to enter the sport and enjoy the joy that we all feel, that's a win. And I think that's kind of what I want to accomplish in my career in running, is to provide that accessibility to people. And so if I've been able to, you know, impact that and leave that legacy, then I would count that as a win.
Awesome. Ryan Montgomery, thanks for sharing your fire, your focus, and your voice with us today. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, of course.
I love the following words that are going to come out of my mouth right now. I'll see you at States.
Woo! Couple more weeks. See
Thanks
you
so much for
soon.
your time, Ryan.
Yeah, of course.